Hello, and thanks for tuning in. This is the second video in our tutorial series on just learning how to model in Houdini. First one, I walked you through this basic ship version 1, which was my attempt here to model some stuff. After I did that, I realized there was some problems. I was starting to get some weird issues when I was trying to, grab these front faces and add some more lines and kind of extrude them. I was getting all kinds of weird geometry issues. And so, I threw it over to Mike and he kind of pointed out a few things. So I'm just going to turn on some points here because it'll make things a little more obvious. See the points. And if I turn on the point numbers, one thing you'll notice is that they seem to be incredibly garbled and there's all these numbers stacked up. So what Mike was telling me and what I've since learned is that actually we have an issue with, and the issue is that each of these geometries is basically so each of these geometries being created, we have all the different sides. So I merge. This is the same graph. I just kind of this geometry and this geometry, right? So the box and then this one. What's actually happening is they're both independently creating this geometry, right? So there's actually two boxes, and then when I merge them, merge doesn't quite do, this one looks a little, but merge doesn't actually quite do what I had thought, and what's actually happening is there's multiple faces on each of these sides and multiple points. So my first attempt to fix this was simply to fuse them, but that only fuses the points and it kept leaving multiple geometries in place. So Mike made me this really nice little demo here to just kind of show you what is happening. Well, to show me what's happening, but now I'm showing you, so that's fair too. So this is kind of what we did before. We made a group, right? Here's a group, and here's a group on the other side, and we extruded left, and we extruded right, and when we merge them, what's actually happening, you can see with all these points in the middle box, we actually have two boxes of geometry here in the middle. They're actually getting basically like duplicated. Also, we do still have these interior, it's a little hard to see, I know, but you can kind of see I have these interior faces inside as well. So we're going to have to deal with all of that because that's not really what we're after. So one way we can deal with that is actually with the blast node. Now, blast is a really kind of powerful node and it gets used a lot in Houdini. And as you might imagine from the name, what it does is it blasts things apart. So what we can do here is I make, group 4 is my face right. And I'm going to poly extrude. And this is the same technique I was looking at in the other video. I'm selecting face right, which is again the group name, not the node name. And then we're going to blast it. And so when we blast it, we're going to set, the extrude front, extrude side. So we're taking the extrusion, right? And then we're saying delete non-selected. Now, if I turn this around, it'll delete all the stuff I extruded. So if you want to delete something by group, you just give it the group and it'll delete it. But we want to delete all the not selected things. So I'm going to say delete non-selected. And now we have only the extrusion. And also we don't have the back face because we actually selected both of these. So let's just see what happens. I'm actually not sure what happened. But, if we have nothing here, okay, well, we blast. So we obviously need some selection. But remember, again, with this part, I'm not actually including the back. So if you need the back for some reason, you can turn that extrude back on, and then you could add extrude back here as well. And you would should also have the back theory. Anyway, I'm not sure why that's not working, but probably a good reason. Oh, I need to output the back. There we go. So I can't just turn on the group. There we go. There's the back. All learning together here. That's what tutorials are about. So I don't want the back, and I actually don't want to even create it because it's only going to cause us headaches. So I'm just going to disable that for now. But that's kind of the point, is what we actually want to do is separate the pieces from the main body. Now, the problem is we actually were a little bit too keen and we actually blasted away our whole ship body. So let's look at another example here. I have a box. There's my box, and we did what I just showed you in the other one. We blasted everything away. There's one side, there's the other side. You can see they're all hollow in the back. And then we just passed this whole thing through. And now this looks pretty good. You know, it's like, hey, cool, this is great. But what you might notice, if you're very keen, is that actually, I'm just going to disable the front. We actually have the original box face still in place here, right? So we still have the original box. We've extruded from it. But because we passed it all the way through to the merge, we're actually taking this whole box and merging it with all this stuff. So we end up with all these like interior faces that we didn't really anticipate having and didn't want to have. And then also you can throw a fuse on at the end, and the fuse is just going to like do what fuse does in all 3D programs and basically fuse the points together, and you can like set a threshold, you know, snap distance stuff. So that's also very helpful for just cleaning up the geometry. This is maybe a better example though what we want to do. So we're going to make a box. Okay, box, there we go. We're going to make a face and another face. And you can see here, the faces are being created like in line. So when you create a group, that group is going to be passed downwards through the graph to all the other nodes. So in this case, we have face left, face right, and then we can select from there. And in this case, we're kind of doing the same thing. So we have extrude right, and then we're going to blast everything away except the extrusion. But we've also added this blast in the middle, which is selecting face left and face right, and it's not delete non-selected, it's blasting those faces. So what we've actually done here is blast those sides off so that once we add it to this piece, that middle piece of geometry is missing. So this is a little bit of a gotcha. This might be kind of a little short standalone video just about how to fix this issue. But it's something that really you're going to run into problems with, and it's not obvious, like very not obvious if you don't really know how to look. So I'm hoping this kind of helps some people troubleshoot their issues, and you can thank Mike for this because yeah, together. And so I'm going to go back here, and I have this basic ship version 3, and you can see it's basically the same graph. The only difference here is that what we've actually done now is introduce some blast nodes, and they're basically doing what you might expect. So I have my front extrusion, and then blast is simply grabbing the front group and the extrude side of the front group. So I'm grabbing the whole front, and then I'm blasting everything away, and now we have only the nose of the plane. Now this is also, I think, really cool because if you wanted to make like variations, say you wanted to make like I'm making a spaceship. So I want to make a spaceship, and you want to give the player like a character creator or something even. You could make 3 different noses based on this poly extrude, and then you could just put a switch there, which is another node that just allows you to switch between options, and that would allow you to basically toggle between different variations of the same chip. So very cool, very procedural, and really like also just, you know, even if you just need to show your art director what something would look like, it's very non-destructive. So it's very easy to just be like, hey, I have this other version of this poly extrude, like, you know, this is what it would look like with this other stuff. Oh, what about that ship? That's kind of cool. You know, and you could basically like easily kind of do this sort of stuff and have multiple versions. So this is where the procedural stuff really starts to shine. So all we've done, the only difference is we've added these blasts here. And I'll show you why also. This is kind of like, you see how this actually updated this other one. I'll show you why it's doing. The green here is telling me that this is linked to something. So both of those were actually linked. You got to be a little careful when you're copy pasting if you've set up controls like I have. But basically, yeah, all we're doing, we're blasting, and you can see here he's blasting it right at the very beginning. So we're making the first extrude, and then we're just blasting everything away, and then we're just detailing it from there. So it'd be very easy from here if you were like, oh, I want to change this grates. You know, you could actually just kind of like copy this whole thing, move it over, you know, make a variation. and everything is very compartmentalized. And as long as these points like 0, 1, 3, 2 stay in the same place, it'll fit back onto your main piece. The only other thing he did here was add a fuse, and that's just going to kind of purge any points that are, you can see there's a few points that get deleted here. Boom. Just any overlapping points. So you just got to be a little careful. The geometry is going to stack, the points are going to stack, and you kind of need to clean it up. So just be aware of that. I also just threw this subdivide on here just to kind of show you what it looks like. So this is just kind of a nice way of smoothing things out a little bit, adding some extra geometry. And you can see it's really cool, or what's one of the things that's really cool about this is you can still go in and change. Like I have this set up to do something else, but so control and left click will clear this out. But you can see that I can still change this size, and even with the subdivisions, it's gonna like recycle this. So that's kind of the basics. This is the basics of procedural stuff. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. I just want to show you one more quick thing here, maybe before we finish up. So I made this other ship. So, this is actually the same ship again. I just copied the whole graph. So one thing I like to do here is I just take the thing, copy, paste, boom, you have a new ship. You can go customize it without breaking what you've done. So if these look very similar to you, that's probably why. So I just want to show you something really cool here. So all I've done is add a switch to the very top of this. And all a switch does is it takes multiple inputs, 0 and 1, and it allows you to choose between them. So in this case, I have a box feeding in, or I have a tube feeding in. A regular old polygon tube. And what I can actually do now is swap between them. Oops, the switch connected. So basically, like here, I'll select the switch, turn it on vision, and now when I swap between them, you can see that I'm just switching between inputs. So this is really cool because what I can actually do here is have a box chip, and then I can just go, oh, actually, I want a spherical one. Now, obviously, there's a few problems here. I'll sort of show you what I'm doing, and you can kind of see. We'll fix this up too. So the only other thing I really had to change here to make this work was I had to change some of the group selections. So, for example, the top maybe. So originally I had a setting of about 10 degrees here. So 10 degrees on this is not enough to actually make the selection. So I just kind of turned this up until it's selected. And again, you can kind of do this dynamically. I'm just dragging this. And later on, what we can actually do is even expose these variables. So if you wanted to do them in Unity, you could actually adjust some of this stuff and maybe help your designers troubleshoot stuff without actually needing Houdini. So it's cool. So I'm just going to expand that so it selects this. And again, on the bottom, let's go fix this problem here on the bottom. So on the bottom, I'm selecting 2 because my angle is only 47. And so when I'm blasting that, it's only taking those 2. And on the final model, it's leaving a gap. So what I'm going to do here is just expand this a little bit. And there we go. There we go. Now when we're blasting, everything's together. And yeah, there we go. Pretty cool. Make a couple different kinds of ships. And this is not like I made 2 versions of the ship. This is literally like 2 different base models. It's the same file. It's the same ship. So this is kind of where the procedural stuff really, really starts to be useful and get powerful. All this crazy stuff. And you can see even the knife in the back, because all I was doing was selecting a face and cutting it in half, all that detail is still there. And because I did it all procedurally, it's able to directly grab even, the circular. I'll just show you here quick. So my knife. So I'm creating my knife through the middle. It's just selecting from extrude front. And there you go. Lots of cool detail. So, and again, you can do the same thing where these are all separate and you can kind of detail them individually and merge it back together and fuse it. And I just throw a subdivision and boom. Cool new, slightly squat spaceship. So that's, I think, enough for this video. I'm going to leave it off there. And then in the next video, we'll be talking, depending on what order you watch them in, I guess. I'll be talking about how to export this as an asset, so that we can import it into Unity, and how to set up some of the settings. And Mike is going to be talking about how to add UVs and materials and that sort of thing as well. So hopefully you found this useful. And again, please let us know if you have any questions or comments or corrections or anything. Like I said, I'm still very much learning Houdini, so I apologize if I got the term made any mistake. Hopefully you guys can fix it. So thanks a lot, and tune in to the next video.